Most professional speakers know they should write a book, but far fewer ever finish one. Now, on today's show, we dig into why a book isn't just a nice to have credential for speakers, but a powerful credibility builder and a marketing tool. And we've got a best selling author, award winning speaker who's delivered hundreds of presentations and has helped others move from intention to publication. You ready? Let's go. Today's guest, Urs Koenig, is a UN peacekeeper, ultra endurance champion, and best-selling and award-winning author. And I'm going to let him take it from here because he'll do a better job of telling you about his journey and his story than I will. So, Urs, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. I'll give you about a minute, minute and a half. Tell us how we got here today.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Well, I'm a leadership guy and I have a very multifaceted background and career. I started out as an academic way back, and then I was a competitive collegiate level cross-country skier, executive coach, now speaker, wrote a book, went back into the military at age 50 to rejoin the peacekeeping force, did two tours, the last one 3 years ago in the Middle East, and I might have another one in me next year actually. And in the meantime, I'm much like you, traveling the world, speaking on stages and spreading the word about the importance of humility in leadership. And I wrote this book, which you see behind me, and this is my first book, and I learned a lot about writing and publishing and producing and marketing a book while writing my book, Radical Humility, Be a Badass Leader and a Good Human. And I'm all about helping other authors to avoid making the same mistakes I've made and hopefully help them to elevate their game with a book. So I think that's how we got there. What do you think, Rob?
Oh, I think that's exactly how we got here. And congratulations on your book, by the way. It's exciting. Now, I got to tell you, somebody whispered in my ear once, write a book, you're an author. Write two books, you're a writer. So I'm inspiring you for the second one. Usually once you got one going, there's another one on the back burner. I won't ask you what, who, how, but we have another one that we're kicking around right now.
Kicking around is exactly the right way. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, you have written how many, Rob? Like
I'm up
15
to
or something?
seven.
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 Okay, okay. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, they gnaw at you a little bit. As I always say, you don't find a book, it finds you.
Right,
So people, once you write one, forget people like Rob who are going to go, when's the next one? The next one's going to come when it says it's ready,
right.
and you'll know. So let's
Exactly.
dive in. Why do you think writing a book is so critical when you're marketing yourself as a speaker?
Look, I think it is, and there is a few exceptions. You know, Ryan Estes, friend of mine, actually is a great sales speaker, and he's only just recently wrote a book and had a very successful career as a speaker beforehand. But I do think it is a very important piece in one of our many assets. So I think of the speaking business as a three-legged stool. The first piece is thought leadership. The second piece is our stage skills, how we show up on stage, performance skills. And the third leg is our sales and marketing engines. So I think or I know that a book is an incredibly powerful instrument in our thought leadership leg, right? So it sort of illustrates to the marketplace that hopefully we've written a very good book, that we actually have something meaningful and new to say about our topic. So I think when meeting planners, direct clients, and bureaus look at speakers, they look at all the assets. You and I know that the sizzle is super important. Um, and our background is important, testimonials, all the rest of it. And the book is just one of those assets which firmly sits in the thought leadership piece. So that's why I think it's such an important piece for us as speakers.
Yeah, I think there's a credibility to it. I mean, I always sort of snicker and look at my friends and say, I didn't really get any smarter the day after the book came out. But the world perceived me as getting a little bit smarter the day the book came out. And I'm not going to argue with the world. I'm not going to argue with my audience or my clients or my booking agents. So it is a credibility piece. Plus, let's do it a little bit more justice than that. I don't know about you, but when I go into a book, it's not like I'm rolling my eyes, but I'm basically writing what I think I already know. And then the journey begins. And I'm looking at that book over your shoulder and I'm saying to myself, and I'm just guessing, no matter what outline, agenda you created for that book, the most exciting parts are the ones you didn't know were going to get written.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you're exactly right. So of course it is a perception piece out there in the marketplace. But I do actually really buy into exactly what you're saying. It's an inner journey. It helps us clarify our own thinking. It helps us clarify our own message. And as we all know, when we have to put words on paper, we actually realize where our gaps are and what we maybe haven't thought about. And so I really felt that my thinking, the clarity of my message greatly improved through the writing of the book. No question about that.
Right. Yeah, you can say it all you want on stage. When you have to really sit there and put it out there carefully and slowly, it's amazing how it gets wings. It really does. Plus, we let's not ignore the bureaus.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about outside the U.S., but in the U.S., I don't know of any major bureau that will touch a speaker without a book under their arm.
yeah. I think you're exactly right. And bureaus, as you and I know, much like meeting planners, they're in the risk minimization business, right? So the last thing they want is a speaker who bombs on stage. And having a book is just one of those, as I mentioned earlier, assets that reassures the bureau and the meeting planner that this person probably has something good to say and can actually deliver on stage. And so I think that's exactly right. For looking at our colleagues on our various bureau websites and agents that we work with, almost all of our speakers colleagues have a book. There's no question about it.
Right. Plus, we remember we've got a sales team with those bureaus that many have never even met us.
Right,
So
right.
all they have are our collateral materials and maybe that sizzle tape, et cetera. So that book to them is very important. Plus, if you want to get booked by a bureau and you've got a friend who's a sales speaker, whatever, there's more than one of those guys out there. I'm one of those guys. That's how I made my career. So we're in the sea of sameness, but here's one that's got a book. Oh, and the book did fairly well. It's easier for a bureau to sell that speaker than the other one who's real talented and checks all the boxes too. So we want to make it easy for those bureaus to sell us so we can get booked.
That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah. It's a differentiator. And then to take it a step further, because almost everybody has a book, you better write a damn good book, right? So and that gets good reviews and that has plenty of Amazon feedback and whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that. You better write a damn good book, and you better work as hard marketing, if not harder, that book than you did writing it. Shh, don't tell anybody.
yeah,
But
exactly.
but it's really congratulations when we get the book out. But now we roll up our sleeves, and I say it with a smile. I look at it as almost my children. I want to fight as hard as I can to give them the best life that they can have. Now they're going to live their life the way they want it. But my job is to get them out of the house, ready to
Right,
go. And
right,
when you said a damn good book, that's us getting that book out of our computer the best that we can. And then it lives its life on its own.
right, right, right. I often, and of course, this is a whole big conversation by itself, Rob, how to launch a book, how to market a book. I think of it as a firework launch, so big sparks and lots of buzz around the launch, and then have the book be a campfire that keeps on giving for months and years. And I'm actually last week I was 2 years past the publication of my book. I still spend about 5 to 6 hours every week marketing the book. So I think that's, and you said that earlier, something that people underestimate. It's great to get the book in hand, and we've all seen the videos of people receiving the book boxes and whatnot for the first time. It's super exciting. And then the work is not over at all, right? That's when it, not really starts, but then when the next chapter starts, and it's a lot of work. There's no question about it.
Yeah. I don't know if you've given this, your book's about 2 years old, so I want to throw a thought at you, which is, and I'm surprised I don't see it more often. The conventional publishers, you're going to have to convince them, but if it's a hybrid or self-published, it's in your hands. I'm always surprised that I don't see more authors going into a second edition. And again, we got to convince the publisher that we've sold enough to get to that second edition. But with the number of books that are out there that are really in control of the author, I don't think we necessarily have to write a new book every 3 years, but we might be able to pull that book of yours over your shoulder into a second edition, new cover, new launch, nice push, and then 3 more years from now, we'll write that second one.
I have to admit, Rob, I thought about the second book. I haven't really thought about the second edition. So thank you for that. Because there's certainly, I wrote the book on humility. So meaning, and I try to live this, I really do. The minute I submitted it to my publisher, I would have already done some things differently. And hopefully, because hopefully we're thinking about our topic. Hopefully we constantly learn and read and grow and talk to different people. So there's definitely things that I would add or subtract now from the original book 2 years ago. So thank you for that. That's a great idea. I love it.
Good, good. Yeah, because we evolve. Look,
Exactly.
I remember the first book I ever wrote in '93. It was a presentation skills book, and I was explaining which side of the overhead projector you had to stand on and how to keep the paper from blowing away when the fan hit it. Okay, in its day, it was really good. And by the way, the other 95% book held up, but
Yeah.
5% really dragged me down. So it's
Right.
either remove the book from the marketplace or clean it up a little bit, get into the virtual deliveries, spice it up. But I don't really need another full book on that. Just
Right.
clean up what's moved. So good. All right. An idea for you. Now you give me an idea. How do
Absolutely.
we tell people? What would you say to somebody uh, who is just not starting? And that's one of the hardest things. They think about it. They're in that think about stage. I want to write a book. I've dreamed to write a book. You're going to be bumping into these people now that you've written one,
Oh, yeah.
and yet, how long have you been thinking about it? Oh, 8 years. It goes on for a while. What do we tell these people? How do we get them going?
Right. So So the first thing and you're absolutely right. I talked to, and much like you, a lot of people exactly in that situation. Either they are thinking of starting or they're two chapters in and don't make any progress, right?
Right.
So a couple of thoughts I have on that. So the first one is, and that maybe sounds a little bit harsh, but start your book when you feel you have really something unique to add. I'm a bit of a cynic, but there's a lot of books that say the same thing that nobody reads anyway. And let's be realistic too. The book market is a stagnant market. And so the overall, market size is about the same, and the growing number of titles are fighting for eyeballs. So let's just be realistic. And so you better have something unique to add. And just personally, I can share my background here. People have told me for years I should write a book. My peacekeeping, my first mission, my ultra endurance stuff. I almost died during a long race. I've done a bunch of interesting, I moved all over the world, lived all over the world. Sort of, what many would consider as at least semi-interesting life. But I only felt that I wanted to write a book when I came back from my second peacekeeping mission 3 years ago from the Middle East, because it added a unique lens, seeing humble leadership through the military peacekeeping, UN peacekeeping lens. And so that was for me the spark to, okay, now there's not many people who have that lens. So I can now actually add something. So that's the first thing I would say. Be sure that you have something, unique. The second piece I would always tell people, opportunity costs are real. I spent 1,700 hours researching and writing my book. That's 1 year at 40 hours, 52 weeks almost. So during that time, you don't write other stuff. You don't write your blog. You don't speak. You don't market. You don't do the admin. So opportunity costs are real. When you decide to write a book and commit to it, you need to commit to not doing other stuff. And so that's really how people get, our speaker friends and consulting and coaching friends, they start a book and then, the client picks up and then all of a sudden they're too busy to write the book. And so accepting upfront that opportunity costs are real. And that gets into my next point, which is having a clear writing process in place, however that looks for you. That's probably out of all the things, the most important one. Some people commit to 500 words a day. I committed to hours. So I would write for 2 hours at a time, maximum 4 blocks at 2 hours every day. After 8 hours, I couldn't write anymore. My brain started to go to mush. So have a writing process, either commit to a word count or a time window and be very specific. Maybe you have a young family. You need to get up at 4:30 and write before the kids wake up. However this looks for you. Some people have colleagues, speaker colleagues, who wrote the book in a library. Some people check themselves in a hotel room, sort of a mini writing review, just to get away, to create white space, get away from the distraction. So having a writing process and defending it vigorously is crucially important in my book in order to start and finish a book. I also am a huge believer, as you can tell, I have some opinions about this particular topic, in a writing coach, in the support of a writing coach. Not everybody needs it, but as we all know, every good professional has a writing coach. I have a speaking coach, accountability, and obviously, hopefully, good professional insights as well. And then the other piece, specifically true for speakers, writing a book is something that we do by ourselves in a room. And there's a wonderful piece, actually, The Talent of the Room, which you can Google, which talks exactly about that. Good writing doesn't necessarily mean you have to be very talented at storytelling. Of course, it all helps, and be an English major. At the end of the day, it comes down how many hours per day can you spend by yourself in a room in front of your machine. In other words, nobody's going to chain you to your desk, but you have to actually being able to stand that. And for us speakers, we get energy from the crowds when we're on stage. Not everybody's an extrovert. I get that. You don't have to be an extrovert, as you and I know, to be a good speaker. But still, we thrive on the energy of the room and the interaction. Writing a book is exactly the opposite. So being able and being realistic about how many hours, weeks, months can you spend by yourself in a room. So these are some of the things that I don't want to sound like a downer, but I think to be realistic, we need to be thinking about these things before we commit to a book. So these are some of my thoughts around
Got
that.
it. All right. Well, let me you bummed the audience out. Let me pick them up a little bit. Not really. I'll tell you something real positive that's happened in the last couple of years, and that is books are getting shorter. So anybody who's now moping, stop moping. He's telling it like it is, and I'm telling you the good news is you already got a couple thousand words in because nobody's looking for war and peace anymore.
Right.
It's pay. I don't even pay attention to page numbers anymore. It's 40,000, 45,000 words is kind of a sweet spot. You can go longer. But if you go conventional, most of the publishers now that they know they can sell that. And
Right.
we've been dancing around that word, but if you want to self-publish your book, don't worry about it. Do it any way you want to do it, I guess. But if you want to take a crack at a conventional publisher, you got to know things like just like you're saying, I have to find a different angle on this idea. I have to pay attention to my word count. I may need a coach, so I've got something that's far enough along that it will only need to be copy edited. So there are a lot of things going on there, really smart things. I want to unpack two other things you said because I love where you're going. One is the distractions. If you study procrastination, which sounds like a terrible word, what I learned about procrastination is it's not lazy. It just means we prioritize other things. And the problem with writing a book is it will always get pushed back down the line to other important things. But if we have to just set the alarm clock an hour earlier every day, that was an hour you were sleeping. There is nothing else going on then. That's your hour, but we have to protect it.
Right.
And that's what I'm picking up from you, Urs, and I think it's really smart. And that's helping this audience. I appreciate that. One other thing I liked, you mentioned a coach. I like an accountability partner or a coach. I think you've got them in the same category. But let's agree on one thing as we look at each other. We can't keep it a secret. I think that's the instinct. We want to write a book and don't tell anybody because we put pressure on ourselves. I look at it the other way and I say, tell people about it. Put a little pressure on. I already told the family at Thanksgiving. I better get some words down because they're going to be asking. So let's avoid the instinct to keep it a secret and let's help ourselves write this book by telling people.
I love that. You're so right on. And not only because let's be real, writing a book, especially if you share a lot of personal stories, which I do in my book, is a vulnerable place. So and doing what you're just describing then is vulnerable. You put yourself out there in terms of the commitment, but then, wait for it. When it's time to put the content, your manuscript out to your beta readers, like that's real vulnerability because you put your best work forward and you pray hard that people, at least semi like it and that you get good feedback. So I think that's a really important point to make it public, and that means being a bit vulnerable actually and being okay with that.
Yeah. All right. Here's the part of the show where I cheat. I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm going to answer it first because I like my answer. So here's the
Perfect.
question that I've teed up for me. I mean, you. Okay.
I will just disagree on principle, Rob, if that's okay.
I love that. Yes. Already he doesn't like it. Good. And you should. But the biggest mistake that I see people make, and you nicked it, I just want people to hear it, is when you hear that I've been thinking about writing a book, I'm one chapter in for 4 years, they keep rewriting the same chapter. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is just let it go. Understand it's a draft. Don't look in the rearview mirror. I don't care if you told the same story 3 times. It may go better in that other chapter anyway. Just like a horse with blinders on, just go down the track and get it the race run. Then we can talk about how we're going to edit it. I just see people just stopped before they start because they can't get off the first 4 pages.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
No,
What
I
do you
think you're,
think?
yeah, yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. I think um, for the vast majority of people, I think you're exactly right. And the way to avoid this is, don't make the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? So if you farm it out to 5 good colleagues, friends who read a lot of books and get some feedback back, right? And then keep going. So I think you know, so that's true. And writing is rewriting. Writing is rewriting. And you and I know this, right? So we need to learn to kill our darlings, as Stephen King said, like, the story and anecdote we so love and we've worked so hard, like it's gonna get killed in the end because it doesn't actually add something to the overall value of the message. So, but I'm absolutely with you. You gotta keep writing, and Daniel Pink talks a lot about this, and like anybody knows how successful he is as a writer. Like his first drafts, his words are crap, right? And so and they're not good for most of us, even if you're an outstanding writer. And so just accept that. And as you say, keep plowing along and keep moving on. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you also in terms of I'll tell you the part that really gets authors stuck. It's a silly little thing, but how many times have you bumped into somebody already who says, I got my title. I know my title. I'm living with my title. They're nesting with it, sleeping with it. They've been with this title. They can't hear anything else. And the weird part is I've never met an author, let alone with me, who's went with a conventional publisher and had their title used by the conventional publisher. That's the first thing that's thrown off the side of the ship is
That's
the
right.
title,
Exactly.
right? They'll leave that manuscript alone more than we think in terms of, they want it for grammar and syntax, but you don't mess with the front and back cover with a publisher because they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. And to come back to a point you made earlier, as authors, we have to decide, do we go self, hybrid, or conventional? And there's lots of up and downsides to actually all options. And one of the Downsides with the traditional publisher is that you have less control over your title and your design, your cover design. And as you're saying, the good ones know what they're doing, and so hopefully, you'll be good hands there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, actually I've always gone conventional, but this last book I wanted a lead magnet. Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah.
Something that, we'll give away. You sign up for my list, I'll give you this. And so I bundled up some blogs and things like that, but I went through the self-publishing for this so I could not have to pay my publisher every time I gave it away. And I have to tell you, it's amazing where self-publishing has gotten to now at this point. I remembered it as just sort of a vanity play. Oh, it's not vanity at all anymore. You want to put your muscle behind it, you can outmarket the publisher.
Yeah.
It's really up to you, but the game has changed. So I'm not quite the snob I used to be. I'm working on a new one right now, and I'm not going to lose any sleep if the publisher doesn't want it. I know where to go if they don't.
Yeah. I mean, I published mine hybrid,
Hmm.
and I was, or I remain very, very happy with that. And the other thing, and this, of course, with the traditional publisher, we have the brand name, and yet, I mean, maybe you tell me differently, but you still got to do your own marketing.
Oh
They
yeah.
might land you a few things, but this idea that people have that, oh, if I'm with a major publishing house, they do all my marketing, forget that. Like, it's still up to you as an author. But you know this better than me because you've
Well,
actually
but you're
done
teaching this audience, so I'm nodding my head, but somebody had to say it. Yeah, it is. There's a rumor there might be not be a Santa Claus either, but this notion that because you signed with a conventional publisher, they're now going to push it out there on the front table at Barnes and Noble. If you're Daniel Pink, they will. You're going to have to earn that. So, yeah, you're going to get, along with a bunch of other books, about a week or two of a minor push, and then good luck to you,
right,
Charlie. Get
right.
out there. So that's okay. So
Yeah,
we know that's coming. And
right,
again, that makes the argument of, so if I really take my budget, which I'm going to use anyway with a conventional publisher, and wrap it around a self-publisher, the only thing I think is missing is copy editing. And it's there too. It's just not an inexpensive move. If
right.
you can solve copy editing, I don't see a huge difference between the two at this point.
The only thing I would add to that is the distribution channel into
Yes.
Ingram.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's maybe too technical at this point, but
Well, it's not
we,
technical,
we,
Urs, because you can pay for that now.
right,
Okay.
right, yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's like a cafeteria. You're coming down with a tray. You can put it on the tray. It'll cost you.
right.
But yes, you're absolutely right. Distribution, and we should have thrown that in there. I'm glad you caught that one. Distribution is probably the other major piece of a conventional publisher. And let's go with two and a half. If we're going to go professional speaking and we're fighting for gigs, when we use the name Simon and Schuster, it's a little different than Simon and Larry.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Rob.
All right, enough said about that. Let's push on. We're coming down the home stretch here. Let's see. What else do I want to ask you? How about I think we've got some people that feel intimidated by the size of the book. And I don't mean pages. I mean, it's just a big project. And it is kind of hard to just, it's like when you were, he's an endurance athlete. I was an endurance athlete myself. And, I can think about training for a race, but sometimes I'll delay a little bit because I know once the training begins, it's on.
Right, right.
So it's getting to the start that of that training. It's hard. Any thoughts in terms of for somebody who's knows they got a big job ahead of them, got to do it, just got to figure out how to get it started.
So a couple of things come to mind immediately. The first thing is, and I did that reasonably well. Talk to people who've gone before you. Talk to other authors. If you work with a hybrid or a traditional publisher, talk to their other authors, and you have people in your network, among your friends, family members who've written a book, and so sort of learning, making it come alive, learning from others, and so that's, I think, one way where this big scary thing can become more manageable. And then I'm so glad you mentioned the endurance stuff, and so I competed in long bike races. So the longest one is what's called the Race Across America. It's a 3,000-mile nonstop bike race. The
Woof.
clock doesn't stop from the West Coast to the East Coast. And so you have to finish this in 12 days, so average 250 miles every day. So the people who do not finish the race, and I have a parallel to the book writing here, is the people who do not finish the race are the people who at the start line in San Diego think about the finish in Atlantic City. And all they've got go through the desert, through the Rockies, Midwest, yada yada. The people who do finish are the ones who think just to the next state line. I just need to get to Arizona and then I need to get to Colorado and so forth. And so the way I apply this to the book is, this is good old self-management. Let's break it down into very manageable pieces. So this big book project is scary and overwhelming. What's the first thing I do? I write an outline. It sounds ridiculously simple. I write the equivalent of a one sheet that we have as speakers. The working title, to your point earlier, the working title, the target audience, what is my unique perspective, and then a brief description, and then an outline. And let's start with that. And so breaking it down into manageable pieces, and then maybe another piece that just comes to mind as I'm speaking here is being clear why you write the book. Sort of goals. I wrote the handbook on my experience, which is a free resource on my website, on my experience of writing the book. And I have outlined there in detail how my goals morphed from very, vague goals of build my brand and grow my thought leadership to very tangible goals. And I think the importance of being clear around why you write the book is because when the going gets tough, and it will, like writing is hard, right? When the going gets tough, it really helps to have clarity of why you're doing this in the first place. And so learn from others, break it down into manageable pieces, and then have clarity around why you're doing it. And then that's a good starting point to tackle the big scary project.
Yeah, I love that. I have a mug. I was looking around. It's not at my desk right now, but the mug says on it, it's from the Washington Nationals coach and manager from 2019. And it was a team that came from nowhere,
Right,
hopelessly out of the playoffs to barely making the playoffs to miraculously getting through the playoffs and winning the world championship. And his motto is very simple: go 1-0 every day. That's it. 1-0. You're not going to win every day, by the way. But
right,
when no matter what happens tomorrow morning, that's your goal. We're not looking 3,000 miles down the road here. We're
right.
looking at where we're going to stop at this first 250.
Yeah,
And we're going to
exactly.
go 1-0 on that 250 day. If we have a bad day tomorrow, the day after that, we're going to go 1-0 again. It really simplifies things. I think it's a wonderful piece of advice that you're giving. I'm trying to clarify it into a baseball analogy, but I think that's important because there are good weeks and bad weeks. And I refer to as grinding sometimes, where you're just forcing yourself at that table. But force yourself. You made a commitment. Sit there. I always say, I don't have to be brilliant today, but I have to have my hands on the keyboard.
Right,
And
exactly.
and I will say for me, when I think I'm going to have a brilliant writing day, not so brilliant. When I think I don't have so much to say, smarter than I thought it was
Yeah,
going to be.
yeah, yeah.
And so trust that. Urs is nodding his head right now for those who are listening. Trust that in you, that don't discount the fact you don't feel like it. It might be a real good day right around the corner here.
Right, right. Yeah, well said. Yeah.
All right, my friend, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way is my website, urskoenig.com, urskoenig.com. I am very active on LinkedIn. That's probably the social media platform I hang out most. So those two places are the two places that people can get in touch. And I always truly love helping other first-time authors. And of course, you can find information about my keynote speaking there as well.
Good. And it's funny, you're not the only one. I think that anybody who goes through and gets a book published, it is, first of all, we always think, I think this is going to be exciting. It's always more exciting than we actually think it's going to be. The dream is better than the dream you're having right now, folks, which means it's not unusual to find an Urs or a Rob who really genuinely would love to help. because we know the joy you're going to feel when you get this done. You don't have to be a professional speaker in the wings waiting to go. You just might have this on your bucket list. All we're saying is it only goes on the bucket list if you have something to say, okay? Don't put it on there because you just want to write a book. Put it on there because I really need to say this to the world. You say that to me and I'm in, okay? It's been wonderful meeting you. And I'm terrific. It's such an important topic we went over today. So I'm thrilled. How about I'm going to give you a bonus 20 seconds here. Tell me a little bit more about that book behind your shoulder there. The
The one
Radical
I
Human.
wrote?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so this is be a badass leader and a good human. So this is this notion of humility is not something that's weak or soft. We can be incredibly tough with our people. We can hold them to the highest standards, be badass leaders, and treat them as whole human beings. So this that false dichotomy, I either have to be a tough leader or a kind person, is totally out. So that is the main thesis of my book. And it helped me. I mean, for those who are speakers on the call, it really has elevated my speaking business significantly. I think by now I've booked 30 gigs only because of the book at full fee. So I'm super happy with that.
Perfect. And for the speaking world, I always smile. They go, "How much you make on that book?" And I go, "Oh, don't worry about that. Whatever you think I made on the book, you can add a couple zeros to what we're going to make on the speaking of the book." That's where the action is. So, all right, we took care of the speakers, the non-speakers. Just really a pleasure meeting you. Love the conversation. Thanks so much for being on the show. Just grateful to have met you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob, for having me. I loved it.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.